There are 11 items today on the agenda, but before I introduce the members, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the Indigenous heritage of the Waverley local government area and recognise the ongoing Aboriginal traditional custodianship of the land which forms the area. Welcome everyone, and thank you for your time, for written submissions and for coming along today to make submissions to the panel. Our experts today are Annalise Torr and Graham Brown, and our community member is Sandra Robinson. I'm Jacqueline Townsend, I'll be the chair. We have a number of speakers today on the agenda, so if I could ask everyone, when you do speak, when it's your turn, if you could please keep to the 3 minutes. There is a timer. You will hear the buzzer go off, so once you hear that, if you're almost finished your submission, if you could just wrap it up. If not, you can end it where you can. If a speaker before you is going to say exactly what you intend to say, please just note that you support that early submission. We don't need to hear that twice. After today's hearing, the panel will then leave and will make a determination, with the determination results being put up on the website at a later date this week. So on the first, also just respectfully, if everyone could wait for everyone to speak, not to interrupt the speakers, and before you're excused, if you could wait for any questions the panel may have of you as the speaker on that item. All right, so number one is DA 283-2021A. It's 50 Gilbert Street, Dover Heights. If we could have no one who's registered, I'll just move on, then there's nothing to hear on that item, so we'll just move on. There's no registered speakers. We have item number 2, which is DA 296-2022, which is 16 Rawson Avenue, Queen's Park. We have a registered speaker, which is David Epstein from DRE Design. He's speaking on behalf of the applicant, I believe. David, are you around?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Actually, I only had one comment to make, if I may. It's in relation to condition 2A, to request that that condition be reconsidered on the basis that the position of the planter box that's suggested in that condition, which is on the northern side of the staircase, would be some 2 meters away from the southern boundary. And I just question the need for that, given that by having a solid barrier there, we're also impacting on the sunlight access to the living area of the subject dwelling. And that's why we had a glass balustrade in that location. So apart from that, I have no issues with the recommendation of the officer.
David, is that you buzzing on that line? It's just maybe.
No.
Okay, it's gone now anyway, that background noise.
Sorry, yeah.
That's fine. Panel, was that all, David? You wanted to?
That's the only issue I wanted to raise. Apart from that, as I said, we're satisfied with the recommendation.
Right, thank you. Panel, was there a question for David in relation to that condition?
Just wanted to understand the conditions obviously imposed to act as a privacy screen, and you've got the option of a planter or a screen. We've taken on board what you said about the overshadowing impact, but what about the privacy impact that the
So if you look at the section, we have proposed to increase the height of the fence on the boundary by 500 millimeters, and that screening will provide additional privacy to the neighbour to the south. So all I'm suggesting is that there is no need for the planter box in addition to that screening, and that the planter box would only have other consequences which relate to the light to the living area. So I think that because it's 2 meters back from the boundary and we have screening on the boundary, there doesn't seem to be a need for that additional privacy measure.
So David, when you say look at the section has you've increased the boundary fencing,
Yeah.
so that's the section on DA 200, is it? Can you just take me to where that section is?
So if you look at yes, DA 200,
Mm-hmm.
and it's section 01 on the top right hand corner of that page.
Yeah.
I think
So
that provides
it's
a
got
clear
this-
indication of where the sight lines are and how we've raised the height of the existing fence by 500, and where the
So that's the fence on the boundary.
that's correct. That's
number
the fence on
18,
the
and
boundary, and
where-
the stair then provides the barrier, which you know.
That's the 3 minutes now, guys.
You know, it makes it impossible to actually stand right next to the fence. So, where the planter box is suggested to be located is 2 meters back. It's on the northern side of the staircase.
But coming up the stairs,
Yep.
what screening is between the stair and the adjoining property at number 18?
Well, there's the boundary fence plus the 500.
Yeah, I can't see the 500, so I'm just.
You probably have to zoom in, but it's a red line on the drawing. So the green is showing the existing height of the fence, and the red increases it by 500.
I think it might be the red line we're missing.
Yeah, I can't see any red line on
We
the
don't
print.
have the red line. We don't have the red line on our.
Oh, sorry, but if you zoom into that that particular section, if you're able to, then you would see it. It is labelled as a 500mm privacy screen, which is on top of the existing fence.
The drawings just show it as existing paling fence. The
Yeah.
plan, there's no mention of plus 500.
There's no note or anything like that. And also, you're
I
concerned
can't
about.
see the drawing you're looking at, but it is on the drawing. It's mentioned as well in the officer's report, so it's clearly there.
Yeah, I can't see it on the elevations either. Because also you're concerned about, you know, overshadowing impact of your property from an increase of the 990, but
Yeah.
potentially by raising the boundary fence, then that will increase or reduce seller
That's
access
right.
to.
That's why we've tried to moderate it by not making the screen too high, to overcome privacy without having a significant impact on overshadowing.
Hi, this is the residents from 1 Glen Street. We just have a few questions. Whereabouts is this proposed to be?
Sorry, excuse me. Can you just turn you haven't been invited to speak. Can you just turn your mic off? And you're not registered to speak, I'm sorry, on this item.
We have registered to speak.
Sorry, what is your name?
I'm with Louisa Patelovich.
Number 1 Glen Street.
Oh, it's a
The
different.
with the property.
I think it's a different DA. Could you just take your mic? Can you just mute yourself? Thank you. That's not on this, that speaker's not on this item, I don't believe.
No, that's for another item.
That's for another item.
Yep.
Look, the drawings definitely, I've got the electronic drawings. There's no red line. The only notes that are there, unless there's been an amendment to these drawings, talk about the existing fence height. Block wall to match existing fence height.
And a paling fence screen with a red, you don't see that? And do you see the red arrows indicating the sight lines? Well, then you haven't got the latest plan in front of you, obviously. It's in the report though. I've just opened the report and I'm looking at it.
But presumably where you need the screening is where the stairs go up.
Yep.
And on the number 18 side of those stairs that are going up. So that's presumably
That's correct.
You need to have a screen that goes up to, you know, the sort of same height as your glass balustrade or something.
That's right. And that's essentially what we've proposed.
But not on the
I'm saying-
boundary within your site, it would be.
On the, within the site on the boundary.
No, you don't need it on the boundary because the stairs that come out, presumably your eye height when you come out the door, you're below the looking over the adjoining it, but it's when you go up into that landing.
Yep.
And then up to the next one. Anyway, I think we have to discuss.
Yeah, perhaps the officer could you know, highlight that detail for you if she has the opportunity. But it is in her report that there's a 500 millimeter high privacy screen on the boundary, and all I'm saying is that she's also asked for a planter box on the terrace, which is 2 meters away from the boundary, which is on the northern side of the staircase.
Yeah, I mean, I think
If
part of the
panel
rationale
feels that it's necessary to put that in, then we'll accept that.
I think it was also to reduce the area of the terrace because upper level terrace being non-complying with the 10 square meters.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure that was mentioned, but okay, we'll leave it at that. As I said, other than that, I've got no concerns.
Right, great. Thank you, David, for coming along.
All right, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item number 3, 11 Pembroke Street, Bronte, DA 4172022, and we've got no submissions received, and the registered speaker is David Fleeting, who's the applicant architect. David, hi, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this. Look, firstly, and none of this is personal, but the first that we were made aware that there was an issue with the DA proposal was 11:56 last Friday. I had sought information from the council about the DA. None had been forthcoming, indicating that it was going to be refused. So it was a little disappointing that we didn't have the opportunity to go backwards and forwards with the council, which we've done so before. We've worked productively with council on many occasions to involve an optimum scheme on a number of projects. And where we have been given the opportunity, we've gone backwards and forwards with council to find out what that optimum scheme could be. Now, to this end, and I'm not sure if it has been included in the document sent to council, I requested that it would have been. We put forward an alternative proposal that reduces the proposed extension by 30%, gives an additional setback to the street by 1.5 metres. And I did that as quickly as we could on Monday morning, having gone backwards and forwards with the client. So it is important also to recognise that in the initial DA for what are accurately described as semi-detached dwellings, we were successful in having that interpreted as 2 separate sites, and therefore that the small site provisions applied to both sites. So it isn't an excess of FSR of 51% as is described. Rather, it's an excess of FSR of less than 3.5% when applied to a semi-detached site of this scale, of which there are a number in Bronte and in fact down the road in Pembroke Street. So I just wanted to clarify those particular issues. Now, it is, so if we look at the analysis of why it's been refused and that it is in the public interest to refuse it, it's a little beyond me as to why that is the case. You in order to see the proposal, you actually have to be looking for it pretty hard. Now, I have some photographs I'm happy to share with you to indicate that if that's appropriate. And I also do have that proposed alternative, which I could share with you right now, if that's appropriate to do so.
Not right now, David, but we do have your amended plans that you sent through.
Thank you.
So we do have those documents. The photographs, if you wanted to send them through to Olivia, the secretary of the panel, before the close of our meeting today, then you're welcome to do that. Whether we'll consider them or not, I can't say because of the size of the agenda, but we're willing to look at them if you want to send them through. But
Look, I'd appreciate that, because the photographs that are contained in the report aren't frankly pertinent to a viewing position of this proposal, where I can put 2 photographs in that are particularly pertinent to this. So, as I say, I think it is important that the FSR is considered on the basis of the 2 semi-detached dwellings, as has been argued right from the word go, and that had we had the opportunity to discuss this with council, as has been the case with Waverley on multiple occasions beforehand, we would have looked to have made amendments.
Yeah. I can't speak to why that wasn't the case. The legal title of that land, it being strata, is the basis upon which the calculation for FSR has been done. If it was Torrens title, then it would be on the subject property, but it's being a strata title, that's the basis upon which the calculations have been done.
Yes, so I understand that. And that again, right from the word go, that our discussion has been the initial DA was for a strata title. We look to go to Torrens title, and because the boundary is not a straight boundary, the mechanics of that we were unable to achieve a Torrens title.
Right.
However, for the purposes of the exercise, it's in a sense an academic distinction between the 2 in terms of bulk and scale. So I just put that, that's the way it's been interpreted.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Panel, are there any questions for David?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you for your time and coming along. And if you send those photos through in the next sort of half hour, then we will have a look at them. But whether they form part of our deliberation, I can't say, because of the timeline we've got on this agenda today.
Madam Chair, I appreciate that. We'll do so immediately.
But just so you know, we do have your amended plans.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
The next item we have is item number 4. It's DA 288-2022. It's 446 Bronte Road, Bronte. There was no submissions received on this DA and there's no registered speakers. So I'll move on to item number 5, which is DA 375-2022. It's 32 Gardine Street, Bronte. And there were submissions received, 3 submissions received, and we've got registered speakers, Alex Wolfenden, who's at the neighbouring property. Alex, are you available? You there? Yes, I can see you. When you're ready, we're ready to hear from you. Alex, you unmute. Could you unmute?
Sorry, I'm working from an iPad and I just tried to figure out how to unmute myself.
It's fine. When you're ready.
Look, I think my submission probably is quite clear with the photographs and the impact that that development will have on the privacy and the overlooking of our property. I know that when our property was submitted through, that a lot of the neighbours had objections for similar reasons, and it wasn't actually me that built it, it was the previous owners, but I know that they were forced to reduce size. They were forced to put solid balustrades to prevent overlooking into neighbouring properties and things like that. So I have requested, I sort of know the owners at 32, that they potentially frost the glass or put in a solid balustrade so that they can see the view over the top but not straight down onto we only have limited privacy, outdoor privacy space, and this development will mean that they can see every single piece of privacy space we have outdoors. I have read, I believe that a lot of the conditions have been, or some of the conditions have been refused by council because of FSR and other reasons. So I guess I just wanted to be here to reiterate my concerns, not only for me, but for other neighbours over the size of this development. And I appreciate your time in listening to me.
Thank you, Alex. It's always helpful to hear from the objectors. Panel, any questions for Alex?
No.
None? Great. Thank you for your time, Alex.
Thank you.
There's no speaker for the applicant, so we'll move on to the next item, which is item number 6, DA 392-2022, 301 Bondi Road, Bondi. There was a number of submissions received on this item, and we have 2 registered speakers who are objecting to this development. The first one is, and I apologise if I struggle with the pronunciation, Yifan Jeff Rosenblit. Are you there? I think you're on mute. Yep, thank you. We still can't hear you. There's something wrong with your microphone. No, sorry, we're you mute. I think there might be something wrong with your mic. Can we ask you to sort that out, and then we'll come back to you after we hear from the next speaker? Louisa Petelevich, are you there, Louisa?
That was the person who spoke earlier, but they haven't come back online. I've sent them an email though. Yeah.
Right, okay. And we had additional, oh, you there?
Yeah. Look, also Rowan Parkey here. I did submit and request to join the meeting.
Correct. We might want to hear from you, because I can see Ifan's still looking. We still can't hear you, Ifan. Yeah. All right. Rowan, are you ready to speak?
Yeah, sure. Look, I'll be quick. I think we've already sort of been opposed to this submission a previous time. The reasons are sort of roughly similar as what they were the first time for us. So firstly, my apartment looks directly over the car park where the proposed car stackers will be placed. So it's going to have a very direct impact on a number of fronts. Firstly, obviously, any noise, movement and vibrations coming from that will directly impact my apartment. The car stackers will also require lighting, which means extra lighting throughout the evening, which again will be throwing additional light directly into the windows and back door, the garden sort of area of my apartment. Any additional air and noise pollution, which is going to come from having the additional cars on the premise, will impact my apartment. The stackers themselves are bulky and aesthetically in disagreement with the current street character of the surrounding area. So it's going to change that sort of aesthetic aspect. And lastly, the building that they're being sort of put on the back of, it's an older building. It's a 1930s building. And it at the time obviously didn't have this sort of facility with it. Someone buying this building and renovating it knew that all along, and the intention is obviously to try to change it and modernize it in a way which very much compromises the original architectural style with which it was built. So I think the sort of the main things here is there's already 5 car spaces, formal car spaces in that parking lot. Plus there's an extra 2 spaces which are often used. So that's sort of 7 car spaces already, which is not bad. There's also obviously a number of smaller motorbikes that are sort of that are in there. I think to sort of add on an additional sort of 3 through the use of the car stackers is just sort of taking it a bit far, given that generally if you want to have that many cars, you've got to go underground at some point. And yes, that's a big investment, but that's sort of what our apartment building obviously did. All our car spaces are underground, so don't affect the neighbours on either side. This will be directly affecting myself and all other surrounding properties around it. So on that basis, I'd like to lodge my strong rejection of the proposal.
Thank you, Rowan. Any questions for Rowan?
No.
Just one question. Mr. Parkey, does the car park bother you at the moment?
It does, but I sort of, we obviously have to have the noise and the cars coming through, and so it would be better if it wasn't there. I'm not at the point where I'm saying that the whole thing shouldn't necessarily needs to go. I'm willing to compromise to some extent, but I think what they're looking to do here is pretty frustrating. Yes, my preferred outcome would be that there's no car park there at all, and people use the public transport that's in the area and the on-street parking. But it is what it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rowan. Have we sorted your microphone out, Ifem? No, we still can't hear you. I'm really sorry that we can't hear you. But Rowan made a very clear
Jacqueline, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I'll just make it very quick, if it's okay.
So who are you?
So I'm James Fulton from 7297 Bondi Road. I should have been registered.
No, we didn't get a registration from you.
Are you speaking as an objector or applicant?
I'm speaking as an objector, and look, I'll just mirror Rowan's. So I suppose my thoughts are somewhat irrelevant given what you said previously about about
if they're mirroring Rowan's, then we
look, I'm the one on the top of Rowan and overlooking the car park, and I have visibility. It's right in my space, and obviously for me, having a car stacker there is ridiculous, and I can't even understand why that's being considered by the council. It's ridiculous, and it's the noise. I've worked in construction to a degree, and I understand the complexity of putting a car on top of another, and it's completely ridiculous given the surroundings of the Bondi area, which Rowan made an assertion to on Glen Street and on Bondi Road, and it's completely out of character of how the general infrastructure is built at the moment, and it's based on historical facades of Bondi in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and there hasn't been really any if you want to start doing this sort of stuff, then it opens just a whole can of worms as to what else you're able to do in terms of, as Rowan said, put it underground. Like if the guy's got enough cash, he owns the building.
We're out of time.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Emma. That's your time, and next time, can I just I don't know if you did register. I can't even see a submission from you, but thank you. And it's only that we've two of our speakers have dropped off or having technical difficulties, but next time I think you really need to register. We've allowed you to speak, we've heard what you said, and it sort of supports Rowan, so thank you, and we'll take your submission on board in any event.
Jacqueline Louisa, who was registered to speak, has come back online.
Okay, Louisa, you there?
Yes.
Okay, so this is your item. So we're ready for you, and your time starts now.
Okay, thank you. As I wrote in my objections, it's a lot of the lights blocking. The main concern is the increase of cars, the fumes. As it is, I'm suffering. My windows face there, the only windows I've got that face that car space. So it'll be increased noise, increased fumes. Sometimes I've got to shut the windows because everything, the fumes from the cars come into my house. So another one, plus the noise from the stack, I won't be able to sleep. As it is, we always had problems with that property. Finally, it's quiet, it's nice, but now increased inflow of cars and fumes and light, it'll be misery for me again. So that's my very strong, plus it looks like in the middle of Bondi, like a garage somewhere in the city that you rent out. I mean, visually, it's disgusting as well. So beside the other objection, that's my strongest objection for me is the light and the fume increased noise. So, and I don't think it's right for the environment. It's a nice street. Okay, they've got the car spots there, that's fine. But putting stacks and putting more cars in, that means increased traffic and increased noise. It'll be misery for me, and honestly. And I've been in this house for 33 years. I'm the owner of this place. So passing all the problems before, but that'll create a new problem. And I can't, I'm too old to go and move somewhere else because somebody wants to do what they want to do. That would be, yeah, just.
Thank you, Louisa, thank you. And thank you for coming back.
Yes, but plus there is plenty of parking. They've got a lot parking, enough parking. If you want, some families, if they live there, there'll be more than one car anyhow. You can't provide parking for every single person in the family. So that'll be a never-ending story. We want more and more and more.
Thank you, Louisa.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you. Just panel, do we have any questions for Louisa?
No, thank you.
No? Great. Okay. I think that's it. Even if you sorted yourself out? No, I think it's been made clear, the objections. So sorry that you couldn't get through. But
I think Ephraim has made a submission as well. So
yeah.
So I'm sure his argument's already in front of you.
That's correct. It is. We've got your written submission. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming on this item. There's a lot of objection that clearly been made here and in writing. We'll move on now to item number 7, which is Unit 6, 88 Beach Road, Bondi Beach, DA 3662022. We've got 3 submissions were made in writing. We've got an objector, Ella Bryant and Christian Kruger. You're both here to speak. Is it one submission or you're going to speak separately? Ella, Christian? I can't see you.
Ella has actually emailed this morning saying she's not going to be speaking anymore. She's happy with what's been presented.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Then we've got the applicant, Siobhan O'Toole. Siobhan, I think I saw you there before.
Yep. Hi, my name's Siobhan O'Toole.
Oh,
hello. No, you're right. That's a difficult one. I just want to thank you all, Madam Chair and panel, for the opportunity to discuss. I do know that this is the first chance that we've had to discuss the development objections, and we were actually given less than a week's notice of this meeting. I do appreciate the workload in the council and the work that goes into this, so I really want to thank Joe and Bridget for all the work that they've done. Just as a quick introduction, as the applicants, Marcel and I, we're both actually active volunteer lifesavers and patrol captains on Bondi Beach. And we've actually done more than 1,200 hours of volunteering on this beach and are active members of this community. We're literally lifesavers. But why have we fought so hard and put forward this submission to the DA? I want to cover that in 3 points. Point 1 was, unfortunately, in 2018, I was actually diagnosed and treated for breast cancer. And as a result of this and the pandemic, both my husband and myself work full time from home. We use the second bedroom as an office, and we have an office on the living room table at present. Secondly, we actually bought this property off the plan in 2018. Council approved the property development. However, the functionality and usability of the upper floor was compromised due to an unexpected loss of more than 2 metres squared of usable space due to a lift shaft, which protrudes 1.3 metres into the room, which I understand is not high enough to be excluded from FSR. But as we submitted with some videos as ahead on Monday, you can clearly see that we can't actually close the door to that bedroom. We cannot access natural ventilation. And the volume and access to natural light has actually been impacted with a smaller window, which was W80, which is 44% smaller than what was on the approved plans by council. Additionally, we found after development is that the ceilings are sloped, which wasn't also indicated on the plans, which has further impacted the volume and usability of the room upstairs, as the actual ceilings are lower than 2.4 metres. So we can't install a ceiling fan to even improve that ventilation in that room. Thirdly, and finally, the property is actually 8 square metres under the FSR. However, as the building is 4.6 metres wide, adding a 1.7 metre deep room would serve little amenity to the apartment. And thus the proposed design that we worked on with Ellie and Ken was in keeping with the existing structure and to really maximise the environmental benefits, including the fact that we wanted to install solar panels for the use of the strata and to upgrade the lot to newer environmental standards that have been put in place by the council since the development in 2018. I'll leave it for Ellie and Ken to speak to the objections and the technicalities of those objections. But really what we were requesting was the ability to meet with the town planners to find a suitable office space that utilises the 8 square metres and provides relief for the loss of amenity that we've suffered on the top floor and work within the controls that we believe that we can find solutions for. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? No.
No.
I see you've got Ken and Ellie here. Are you both speaking or just...
Madam Chair, I'll probably just go first as the town planner, and if there's any design questions, I'll revert back to Ken as the project architect.
Okay, sorry, I just got to get my cord when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, my name is Ellie Gashite and I'm the urban planner representing the applicant. Firstly, I just wanted to double check if the panel has had a chance to review the supplementary material that we provided on Monday.
I don't know if we've...
Yeah, we got it.
We've got that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll look at it.
Okay. So I'd like to summarise my response in 3 key areas. So namely, zero communication with the applicant. Council has not properly considered the shadow impacts of this proposal, and the rear setback non-compliance is inaccurate. Between lodging the DA on the 31st of August and when the planning panel report was published last Friday, we received no requests for additional information or feedback on the design. Therefore, the due process of communicating with the applicant was not followed by Council. In fact, the Development Assessment Best Practice Guide prepared by the state government recommends, and I quote, if the DA remains fundamentally incomplete, contains major deficiencies, or there are variation requests that cannot be supported in all reasonableness, the applicant should be encouraged to withdraw the application or be advised that the application will either be rejected or as invalid or determined on the information currently before Council. As you can see, the owners are not property developers and are simply just trying to expand their constrained unit as they both work from home. They are open to reducing the size of the proposed home office with Council. However, this opportunity was not made available to them. In terms of shadowing, Council's assessment does not take into account existing trees and the existing circumstances of the properties at the rear. As you would have seen in the information we provided on Monday, there are trees blocking the existing rear of 44 to 46 Kahlua Street. And the rear of 50 Kahlua Street is actually a car park and not private open space. Council's assessment does not conclude that compliance cannot be achieved. Rather, it just suggests there is additional shadowing impacts.
Sorry guys, we're nearly running out of time, just to let you know.
Okay, thank you. I've got 2 more points. There was no further request for additional details on the shadow diagrams or elevational shadow diagrams to the rear of the buildings. Lastly, the assessment to the rear setbacks is inaccurate, given the adjoining buildings are not at a similar height as the subject building. In fact, the proposal is not visible from the street and is a very minor rear addition in relation to the overall building. As you can see in this Zoom meeting, we are all mostly working from home today, so the proposal shouldn't really be a foreign concept to us. Overall, we encourage the panel to reconsider this recommendation by council and to allow the owners to have their home office. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ellie. Panel, we have any questions for Ellie, the town planner? No?
Yeah, I just had one. Ellie, you provided the extra information with the photos, and I'm just looking at the shadow diagrams submitted. The shadow diagrams don't clarify what the shadow is affecting. They don't have any comment about the car parking that you provided a photo of. Did you go through that? We don't have your SEE, but did you deal with that in the assessment? Because obviously the officers have based their assessment on the shadow diagrams submitted, and they don't actually say, you know, that the shadows falling on a car park, for example.
Correct. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. Listen, we did lodge this application in August last year. And as someone else, I think David Epstein mentioned, there was no communication from council for their DA also. So I feel that this DA was just done in a bit of a rush to get it off someone's desk.
Yeah, but the
shadowing, yeah. Clearly, you know, I've been, as you probably know, I've been lodging DAs in Waverley for about 15 years. And usually there is some communication or feedback from council. In this case, zero communication about shadow diagrams or anything for that matter. So if there was an opportunity to challenge or question the shadow diagrams, what's there, what's not there, we could have provided it to council.
Thank you.
And again, I don't know if the shadow assessment has looked at the actual impacts correctly either.
I guess what I'm saying is, what information was the council given? Because you know, it can be quite useful if the shadow diagram show that it's a car park.
You're right. You're 100% right. In fact, in the SCE, I actually have a few drone photos there for the benefit of council. So they didn't even have to visit the site, and they could see quite clearly there's a car park at the rear of one of the properties. The other property, there's just trees blocking the view. But you know, it was quite quick for me to find that information online and you know, to prepare that additional information that we sent to council Monday. So yeah, I don't think, you know, it was easy for me to address that if we had the opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, Annalise?
Yeah. So you mentioned before that you would like to have been given the opportunity to look at amendments. So so what sort of amendments were you thinking of in terms of reducing the size of the proposal?
Correct.
What were you proposing? What would you have been proposing?
Well, an 8, as you kind of heard from the owner, an 8 square metre addition would achieve compliance technically with the maximum FSO. But you know, if you were to go into the unit upstairs, you'll see an 8 square metre, you know, addition won't really achieve that much for them. So I can't give you I think the addition we were proposing was only 20 square metres. Also,
well, the dimensions on the plan appear to be 4890 by 4663, which is quite large for an attic office, and the extent of it with the balcony goes right to the level below. So presumably to reduce its impact, including its overshadowing impact, if you pulled it back further by a metre or something like that, it would still give you a usable attic office.
Correct. And we weren't given the opportunity to talk to council at all about these options. And with any application I submit in Waverley Council, we usually get feedback.
Yes, I know, but I think it's a matter also when you're putting in your application in terms of things like a solar axis diagram, where it's quite clear that the impact will be assessed against open space, that if it is falling on a car park, that potentially should be shown in the diagram and also explained in the assessment. So, because there's a whole lot of pressure as well about, you know, councils and panels dealing with it.
Yeah.
So the more you can do it up front in terms of explaining what is the actual impact would make a big difference. But in terms of just looking at these solar access diagrams, the the extent of southerly, if that was reduced, then the blue presumably on those diagrams would go back. Have you been able to sort of work out?
No, we haven't. And I did point this out to the council officer. We were expecting to see the report online Wednesday afternoon. It was only available online Friday morning. So the due process with just publishing the report wasn't followed by council.
All right. So are you asking the panel to defer this application rather than?
Yes, to give us an opportunity to get to review the issues and be able to respond. And we are open to proposing a reduced envelope.
And if we were to agree to that, what sort of time frame would you need to provide a reduced envelope?
Well, I wouldn't be doing most of the work. It would be Ken as the architect, but I would imagine he'd probably need about 2 weeks maximum for us to be able to, which is the standard time frame councils give anyway, with their RFI letters.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Annalise. Anything further, panel?
No.
Thank you, Ellie. It was very helpful. And I'm sorry, Siobhan, can you just say your name again for me, pronounce your name?
Yeah, sure. It's Siobhan.
Siobhan, yes, great.
Think about she and then Vaughan, straight up. The Irish.
Thanks very much. All right, thank you for coming along, and we'll move on now to item number 8, which is DA 462-2021A, which is 12 Princess Street, Rose Bay. There's a number of written submissions, and there's an objector, Joel, who's speaking, who's also representing Justin and Catherine. So, Joel, are you present?
I can unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I can't quite. My picture was there, but now it's gone. I'm not sure how to get my picture back. The video.
We can hear you, so that's probably more important.
Okay. All right. Well, Madam Chair, first, thank you, and thank you, panel members, for accepting my discussion. As mentioned, Justin Holtzman in 10 Princess Street and Catherine Beyer in 14 Princess Street. I'm representing both of them as well as myself. Firstly, I'd like to thank Council and Council Assessment for rejecting these modifications. They really took a lot of time to look at our submissions. They visited our residences, and in their refutal of this modification, they captured all of our submission points to a large extent. And of course, they're much more technical on the infringements of the regulations and bylaws than we could ever be. But I have been asked to make 1 or 2 points to their refutals. Catherine Beyer from 14 Princess Street, just to go back, we've followed, since this began in 2021, the original proposal that went to council was immediately rejected because it broke FSR, bulk, height, all sorts of issues. So the actual submission was already altered by the architectural plans, and that altered submission went to the panel yourselves in 27 of April 2022, where you accepted these alterations. This modification is on top of that. And what happened with 14 Princess Street is that the April approval that you gave last year, she had already lost city skyline views and had shadowing. She's now had increased loss of city skyline views and increased shadowing. And she was very upset and concerned because she sees this as a loss of not just lifestyle and amenity, but also massively of value to her house. She wanted to stress that to you. Justin in 10 Princess Street wanted to stress that this increased bulk and size, I mean, literally it's 20% more than what you approved last year. It's 3 meters longer in the north, which is massive, well over 55 square meters, the size of a small apartment increase. And Justin said the noise, because we live in a gully, of extensions that will go into their back area the noise pollution, as well as the shadowing, he was very disturbed. These are just additional, because the council really captured everything, but I made a commitment to mention these to you on their behalf. For myself, it's just my major concern was visibility. This massive extension is an intrusion that will approach both my balconies, both my living areas. That the extensions are high living extensions of living room and terrace off the living room and kitchen. They're going to be looking straight eyeball into me. I'm going to be looking eyeball into them. There's going to be visibility and sound intrusion. We accepted your panel's decision back in April, which gave the go-ahead. We're three of us are lay people. We've never been through this process before. We're inexperienced. What we would like to state, and what council has recognised in rejecting all of these, is that we can only look at this, panel members, and say this is a cynical abuse of the process, that you have an approval at one stage and then you call yourself sustainable, what they said, sustainably the same, substantially the same in modifications. And then we look at it and it's not at all. It's a cynical grab. It's well over 3 meters extension on top level and bottom level, increased terrace, change the swimming pool, extended car park, and we're worried about excavation because we're sand-based land here, and we've already made the point. Panel already accepted.
Joel, that's time. If you could wrap up, please.
Okay, so just to wrap up, as lay people, we appreciate the panel. We very much appreciate Waverley Council, and just as a comment, as ratepayers, we got to stop these land grabs as disguised as simple modifications. It's a ridiculous process in our view. That's unfair. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Appreciate your time, and thank you for coming and speaking on behalf of your two neighbours. Really appreciate that. Panel, is there any questions for Joel? No? All right, thank you very much. We'll consider this deliberated in our meeting this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, panel.
We'll move on now to item number 9, which is DA 3342022 100 Francis Street, Bondi Beach. There was 2 submissions received during the process, and we've got registered speakers, the objector Kate Thompson and the applicant Martin Bland or Stan Bland. Kate, are you online? Kate Thompson? No.
I haven't seen Kate join today.
Sorry?
I haven't seen Kate join.
Yeah, okay then. So we've got Stan Bland, he's the applicant. Stan, do you want to speak or address, given the objector's not here, or you just want to take it, be ready to take?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Madam Chair, good afternoon, panel members. First of all, did you get my submission that I sent through a couple of days ago?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I would just like, apart from that document, I'd just like to make a few points. The application we put in was intended to be fully compliant with the planning guidelines. The council seems to be following everything that the neighbour's submission is claiming. The building height is compliant with the LEP and the DCP, but the council has chosen to follow the claims. Firstly, on the height compliance, the council's assessment report is predicated on a building height of 10.5 metres, which is using the basement level and not the existing ground level as defined by DCP, which, if applied, the design would be compliant. The arguments that prior developments in the street prior to 2007 are not subject to the LEP doesn't stack up for this development. The last development in the street at 84A, that's DA 250 in 2013 has accommodation 2.7 meters below the existing ground level, and a building height of 8.5 on top of that, making it 11.2 meters, and that's fully built. My second point is the setbacks. The setbacks are in compliance with the DCP 2022. The front and rear setbacks, section 1.2.1, with the average of the 3 adjoining properties being 3.3 meters, being on the line on the architect's plan submitted. The setback lines are the same as the existing house, apart from the east side, where the wall is being moved out by 1 meter to allow for the entrance to be moved from the side of the house and allow for a hallway and a stairway inside the house. It's hard to understand that if guidelines are followed, how the council say that the setbacks are not compliant. Council stated that balconies are generally not a feature of the street. Yet in our data of houses fronting on this side of the street, over 80% of the houses with the second story have balconies, including that last one mentioned, 84A. The only one that doesn't have a balcony is 92, and that's because they didn't want one. Thirdly, the overshadowing. The council's use of the basement level as the existing ground level makes it the height non-compliant, and as such, extra overshadowing will occur, as it would if you're putting another story on. If this weren't the case, the application would be compliant. So the whole report is predicated on arguments from the submission from 98 that the proposal is non-compliant. However, in reality and visually, this proposal is compliant in both height, setbacks, overshadowing, bulk and scale. One only needs to look at the design, its height, setbacks and compliant floor to space ratio to understand that, and that this will be an asset to the amenity of the public. An example of this has been the first phase, which people comment on, with its open garden and balustrading. One only needs to look at the other houses in the street to see that this will be a pleasant addition. As I say, the first comparison should be at 84A, which is the last developed home. Yeah, we just thank you. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions in this regard.
Panel members, do we have any questions?
No, thank you.
No.
Just one question. You mentioned 84A. I'm looking at your submission. Do you mean 84, which is the newly built semi?
The newly built one is 84A. That's the right-hand side of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
you've labelled it 84 on your photos.
Oh, it's probably the one below that then.
Okay.
Have you got it?
Yeah. Well, I know which house it is, but
yes,
it's just not quite.
Yeah, it's got substantial accommodation and living space below. So obviously the council is not using the basement as the ground level. It's using the natural ground level, and the natural ground level here is either side. You can see it. I mean, it's quite obvious. So why they're using the basement is not right. And you know, this house is, as the other drawings say, that the roof level will be below a line drawn between the two houses either side.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. And Kate hasn't come back or joined?
No.
Okay, thanks, Emma. All right, thank you very much, Stan. We'll now move on to the next item. Item number 10, which is DA 323-2019B, 124 to 126 Campbell Parade, Bondi Beach. There were a number of submissions received during the process, and we've got a registered speaker objecting, Paul Wilson and Mel Wilson. And then we've got a number of representatives here for the applicant. So do we want to hear from Paul and or Mel?
Yes, Paul Wilson here. Thanks very much, Jacqueline, and thank you, panel, for the opportunity to speak. I'm a resident of Bondi Beach. I've been a resident of Waverley Council for over 20 years. I'm a local business owner of Fitness Studio Virtus, which was a finalist in the most recent Waverley Council Small Business Awards, and My family and I live directly across the road from the proposed development. The matter under consideration here is a development which has been approved for a new building at 124 to 126 Campbell Parade. The approved plans are already above the maximum for the area, which we of course accept, but the current application is to raise the height of the building again. And this will have a very material impact on our family. The requested extension, it further breaks the horizon line in a number of places when looking from our apartment, and it takes away views of Ben Buckler. And I'm sure you can appreciate how important views are in Bondi Beach, both to the enjoyment of the space, but also financially. And I'm not sure that the true impact was made clear in the application or the submission, where some of the photos were taken from a different angle. It makes it look like it doesn't have a horizon impact, but I can assure you, the reality is there is a huge impact. And so this to me is a lot about a principle of fairness. The original proposal is already above the maximum height for the area. We accept that. I would ask you to consider whether a further extension above that limit is fair. We feel that it's not. And I agree with an earlier speaker on another matter that this is a grab for extra space at the expense of existing residents. And so we just ask that the development is completed in accordance with the DA that was already granted. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Paul. Panel, do we have any questions for Paul?
No, thank you.
No. Great, thank you. We'll now hear from John Fitzgerald, the applicant.
Hi, Madam Chair. My name's Elliot Demanis. I'm the town planner representing the applicant.
So you're going to speak on behalf of everyone then?
I will be speaking on behalf, correct. I'd just like to say good afternoon, members of the panel. My name's Elliot. I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant in support of the application. I have with me Mr. John Fitzgerald, who is the applicant, Miss Ornella Bucheri, who is the architect, and Mr. Omre Urbis, who is the project services consultant, and they will be available to answer any questions of the panel. Firstly, I'd like to confirm that we concur with the thorough assessment contained in the council officer's report, and of course with the recommendation for approval and the accompanying conditions. We do not wish to challenge any of the recommended conditions of consent. One issue I'd like to talk to is that of building height. As you're aware, the proposed modifications involve additional works above the building height limit. This is particularly a result of increases to slab thicknesses in accordance with fire separation requirements, increases to lift overrun height to allow for sufficient internal headroom, and changing the approved pitched roof to a flat concrete roof to achieve the minimum required 2.7 metre internal floor-to-floor heights in line with the ADG requirements. All of the proposal will locate various building services at the roof form. This is in accordance with condition 115A of the DA consent, which condition these building services to be located in the centre of the roof form. As noted in the council officer's report, the detailed justification provided in the applicant's submission is considered to be sufficient, and the increase in building height will still meet the relevant standard and zone objectives. The assessment officer did not raise any matters of unreasonable amenity impacts from the area of the height non-compliance, indicating that any additional overshadowing to numbers 118 and 122 Campbell Parade is considered to be negligible. If the panel requires any further clarification on this building height matter, the architect and services consultants are available to answer any questions. The second issue that I'd like to address is views. To assess the extent of view impacts in accordance with tenacity, view modelling using images from the objective's properties was prepared by the applicant. This modelling indicated that despite the increases to the building height at the roof form and relocation of necessary services at the roof level, the proposal will continue to ensure equitable access to views from private dwellings, including units from 12 Horse Street and 63 Horse Street. The extent of the view impact to those properties was considered by the council officer to be negligible or minor, with which we concur. So in light of the above, the proposed modifications, including the height, is acceptable. And importantly, the area of non-compliance does not result in any adverse impacts, particularly in relation to view loss and overshadowing. It is also important to note the proposal does not alter compliance with the majority of the LEP and DCP and ADG building envelope controls, including FSR and setbacks. In this regard, the proposal will retain a similarly compliant envelope with the exception of the minor changes to the roof height, which are a result of design development as per relevant construction requirements. Proposal will provide an envelope which is predominantly consistent with council's controls and guidelines. In finishing, it is for these reasons, members of the panel, that the modified proposal is appropriate for the site and the locality and is worthy of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. Panel, do we have any questions?
No.
None? Great, thank you. And thank you, John, and the others who are coming today to take any questions if there were any. Great, thank you. And
Thank you all.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 11, which is 15 to 17 O'Brien Street and 156 Glenair Avenue, Bondi Beach. Again, there was a number of written submissions received, and there are registered speakers all for the applicant. So is there a presentation, or are you happy just to take any questions that we may have? Kate, you're going to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies for the chaos behind me. I'm working in my kids' play area today. We were very happy with the recommendations of the report. We've worked actively with council over the last year, and we're very comfortable with that and all of the conditions, and I'm available to answer any questions if the panel members have them.
Thank you, Kate. Panel, do we have any questions for Kate? Annalise?
Just one question, particularly in light of the DA that was just before us about additional plant being required on the roof. Can you just explain the plant requirements for this development and how they're being resolved in the DA?
So the plant that is required for the roof has already been identified on our roof plan, and we actually worked with council to ensure that it was appropriately screened. It didn't breach the height too significantly. So we had actually resolved it as part of the application process, and my understanding is that council now raises no objection to that plant and how it's screened.
So you're relying on quite a lot of plant being underground as well?
There's some plant underground, but a lot of it's on the roof because there's certain plant that you can't put underground.
So on the roof, it seems like it's a very small amount that's actually proposed.
Well, it's not a significant development. It is only sort of 14 units in ground floor retail. I can get our architect to answer particular elements to it, but the plant that needs to be on the roof is identified there, and we've worked with council around how it's designed and screened.
Okay, so a condition that sort of makes it clear that that's the extent of plant on the roof is not a concern.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
Oh, Sandra?
No.
Sorry.
No, thanks.
Right, Graham, nothing?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's the last item, and thank you for the speakers who are still online for your time and patience today. We'll now close the public meeting and we'll move into deliberations. Like I said earlier, the decision will be put up on council's website later this week. And thank you very much for your assistance, and thank you staff as well. I now close the meeting. Okay, so everyone's off, just us. Lunch break?
It's still live, actually. Yeah, we've just got to turn off the live stream.